I was sitting in my cramped office in Denver, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead as I finished another late shift. 29 years old, working as an accountant at a small firm trying to make ends meet while supporting my family back home. My phone buzzed with a message from my Aunt Linda. When I opened the video, I saw my entire family gathered around my grandmother's dining table, laughing and chatting over dinner. Then I heard my brother Marcus's voice, cutting through the noise like a knife through my heart. Isabella, she's the most pathetic failure I've ever seen. 30 years old, still single doing that boring job. My blood turned to ice as the laughter grew louder. Before I continue this story, please let me know where you're watching from and hit that like button if you've ever felt betrayed by your own family. Subscribe to hear more stories about betrayal that I've never shared before. Now let me take you back to that life-changing night when I discovered what my family really thought of me. Let me paint you a picture of my life up until that moment. I lived alone in a small studio apartment in downtown Denver, working 60-hour weeks as a junior accountant at Morrison & Associates. My salary was decent for someone my age, around $45,000 a year, but it wasn't enough to live lavishly. Every dollar was carefully budgeted, every expense calculated twice. My family situation had been complicated since I was 16, when my parents divorced and my father walked out on us. My mother, Anna, raised my brother Marcus and me on her own, working 2 jobs as a house cleaner and a diner waitress just to keep food on our table. Marcus was 3 years older than me, but somehow I was always the responsible one. While he partied through high school, I studied relentlessly, earning a full scholarship to Colorado State University, where I majored in accounting. 4 years ago, everything changed when my mother called me crying. She had been diagnosed with heart problems and couldn't work her physically demanding jobs anymore. Marcus had just gotten married to his girlfriend Sarah, and they had welcomed their first child. His income as a mechanic wasn't enough to support his growing family and help our mother with her medical bills. That's when I made the decision that would define the next 4 years of my life. I started sending money home every month. It began small, just $300, here and there for groceries and utilities. But as my mother's medical needs grew and Marcus had a second child, my contributions increased. Soon I was covering their electricity bills, water bills, my mother's health insurance premiums, and occasionally helping Marcus buy formula and diapers for his children. Every month, like clockwork, I would transfer nearly $1,000 from my checking account to theirs. To afford this, I cut every possible expense from my own life. I stopped going out to dinner with coworkers, declined invitations to weekend trips with friends, and wore the same 5 outfits to work in rotation. My lunch consisted of peanut butter sandwiches I made at home, and my dinner was usually instant ramen or whatever was on sale at the grocery store. I told myself this sacrifice was temporary, that once my mother got back on her feet and Marcus's career advanced, I could start living for myself again. But somewhere along the way, I noticed my family had started treating me differently. Phone calls became less frequent and more transactional. My mother, who used to call me every Sunday to chat about her week now, only contacted me when bills were due. Marcus would send brief text messages asking for money, followed by even briefer thank you notes. When I called to check in, they seemed distracted, always busy with something more important than talking to me. My Aunt Linda, my mother's younger sister, had also grown distant. We used to be close when I was growing up, but now our interactions were limited to holiday greetings and the occasional Facebook comment. I couldn't understand why everyone seemed to be pulling away when I was doing everything I could to help them. The video that shattered my world showed a family dinner at my grandmother's house. I could see everyone seated around the large oak table that had been in our family for generations. My mother sat at one end, looking healthier and happier than she had claimed to be during our phone calls. Marcus and Sarah were there with their 2 children, ages 4 and 2, who were playing happily in the background. My Aunt Linda was recording, probably planning to share family memories on social media. The conversation I overheard still echoes in my mind. Marcus was speaking loudly, probably emboldened by the beer I could see in his hand. Isabella thinks she's so important sending us money every month, but honestly, she's just a pathetic failure with no life of her own. 30 years old and still doesn't have a boyfriend. All she does is work and send us checks like that makes her matter. What hurt even more was my mother's response. Instead of defending me, she nodded thoughtfully and said, "My daughter focuses so much on money that she's forgotten how to actually live. She's missing out on everything that makes life worth living. No relationships, no fun, just work and more work." Sarah Marcus's wife chimed in with a cruel laugh. "Well, at least she has money to send us." That's about the only useful thing about her. The entire table erupted in laughter, as if my pain and sacrifice were nothing more than entertainment for their evening. I sat in my dark office watching this video on repeat, feeling like my entire world was crumbling around me. The shock of what I had witnessed left me paralyzed in my office chair. My hands were shaking so violently that I could barely hold my phone steady. The video was only 3 minutes long, but I must have watched it 20 times that night, each viewing revealing new layers of cruelty that I had initially missed. I noticed the expensive bottle of wine on the table, something my mother had told me she couldn't afford when asking for grocery money the previous week. I saw the new furniture in the background pieces I didn't recognize from my last visit home 6 months ago. Most painfully, I observed how relaxed and carefree everyone looked, completely contradicting the stressed, desperate tone they used when calling me for money. My mind began racing backward through 4 years of memories, recontextualizing every interaction through this new lens of knowledge. I remembered the time I had turned down a promotion that would have required relocating to Phoenix because I worried about being too far away if my family needed me. I thought about the countless evenings I had spent alone in my apartment, eating 99-cent frozen dinners while transferring money to cover their restaurant meals. Driven by a compulsion I couldn't control, I opened my laptop and logged into my banking account. The numbers on my screen told a story of systematic financial sacrifice that made my stomach turn. Over the past 4 years, I had sent home $48,300. $48,000 that represented every vacation I didn't take, every date I didn't go on because I couldn't afford dinner out, every social opportunity I had sacrificed. The detailed transaction history painted a picture of escalating dependency. What started as $300 emergency transfers had grown into regular monthly payments of $800 to $1,200. I had covered my mother's health insurance premiums, which cost $450 monthly. I had paid their utility bills, which averaged $380. I had sent money for school supplies, children's clothing, car repairs, and numerous other expenses that they claimed were emergencies. My investigation deepened as I realized the video had been recorded on what appeared to be a brand new iPhone. I checked my Aunt Linda's Facebook profile and found her post from the previous week showing off her new iPhone 15 Pro Max with the caption, "Thanks to my nephew Marcus for this amazing upgrade gift." The phone that recorded my humiliation had been purchased with money I had sent for my nephew's school supplies. Rage replaced shock as I dove deeper into social media. Marcus's Instagram account showed photos from a recent vacation in the Bahamas. The posts were dated just 2 weeks earlier, showing him and Sarah lounging on pristine beaches, dining at expensive resort restaurants, and enjoying couples massages. The vacation that coincided perfectly with his urgent text message about needing money for baby formula. My mother's Facebook revealed a pattern of expensive dinners at upscale restaurants, theater tickets, and shopping trips with friends. Her most recent post showed her wearing a new designer coat, posing outside the entrance to Denver's most exclusive department store. This was the same woman who had called me crying about not having money for her heart medication. Sarah's social media was perhaps the most infuriating. She regularly posted photos of designer handbags, expensive jewelry, and luxury beauty products. Her children were dressed in name-brand clothing that cost more than my entire monthly wardrobe budget. Yet she had texted me just 3 days ago about needing money for daycare expenses. The realization hit me like a physical blow, My family wasn't struggling financially. They were using my money to fund a lifestyle they couldn't afford on their own. Every dollar I sent was enabling them to live beyond their means while I suffered in poverty. They had turned me into their personal ATM, and worse, they had convinced me that it was my obligation as a daughter and sister. I spent the entire night awake, consumed by a mixture of rage, heartbreak, and humiliation. The people I had sacrificed everything for viewed me as nothing more than a source of income. They had laughed at my loneliness, mocked my dedication to work, and dismissed my worth as a human being. The foundation of everything I believed about family love and loyalty had crumbled beneath me. As dawn broke over Denver, I made a decision that would change everything. I wasn't going to confront them immediately. Instead, I was going to wait, plan, and let them destroy themselves with their own greed and carelessness. The morning after discovering the video, I called my Aunt Linda with a voice so steady it surprised even me. "Linda, I wanted to thank you for sending that video last night," I said calmly. "It was really nice to see everyone together." The silence on the other end lasted several heartbeats before she began stammering apologies. "Isabella, honey, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to send that to you. It was supposed to go to my friend Margaret, and I must have clicked the wrong name. You know how family dinners get everyone just talks and talks? We didn't really mean anything by it." I let her ramble, maintaining my composed facade while taking mental notes of her panic. "Don't worry about it, Linda. I understand that families need to vent sometimes. I'm not upset at all." The lie flowed smoothly from my lips, but inside I was already formulating my response strategy. After ending the call, I spent my weekend conducting a thorough financial investigation of my family using skills I had developed as an accountant. Public records, social media analysis, and careful cross-referencing of the information they had given me over the years revealed the full scope of their deception. Marcus worked as a senior mechanic at Thompson's Auto Repair, earning $55,000 annually. This was significantly higher than the $38,000 he had claimed when asking for my help. Sarah worked part-time at an upscale salon, bringing in approximately $25,000 per year from her clientele, who paid premium prices for her services. Together, their household income was $80,000, more than enough to support their family comfortably in their small Nebraska town. My investigation into my mother's health revealed perhaps the most painful betrayal. Using the insurance account I had been paying for, I accessed her medical records and discovered that her heart condition was completely manageable with basic medication that cost less than $30 monthly. Her recent emergency doctor visits were routine checkups. The expensive tests and procedures she claimed to need were either exaggerated or entirely fabricated. The prescription medications I had been funding were mostly generic drugs available at any pharmacy for minimal cost. Her dramatic calls about not being able to afford life-saving medicine were elaborate performances designed to manipulate my emotions and open my wallet. With this evidence in hand, I began planning my withdrawal from their financial ecosystem. But I wasn't going to simply stop sending money and disappear. I was going to wait until the moment when they needed me most, when bills were due, and they were counting on my reliability, and then I was going to let them face the consequences of their own financial irresponsibility. While I waited for the perfect moment to execute my plan, I began investing in myself for the first time in years. I purchased 3 new professional outfits that made me feel confident and competent at work. I signed up for a gym membership and started taking evening yoga classes. I bought fresh groceries and cooked nutritious meals instead of surviving on processed convenience foods. For the first time in 4 years, I felt like I was living instead of merely existing. I started accepting invitations from coworkers and discovered that I actually enjoyed their company when I wasn't constantly stressed about money. I registered for a professional development course that could lead to a promotion and salary increase. During this period, my family continued contacting me with their usual requests and complaints, completely oblivious to my growing resentment. They had become so accustomed to my financial support that they took it for granted, never questioning whether I might have my own needs and desires. Marcus called regularly with urgent requests for various expenses, always couched in terms of family obligation and his children's welfare. My mother continued her routine of monthly medical crisis calls, each one more dramatic than the last. Sarah sent frequent texts about unexpected expenses and emergency situations that required immediate financial intervention. I responded to all of these requests with polite acknowledgments and promises to send money soon, but I deliberately delayed my transfers by a few days each time. I was testing their patience, measuring how quickly their gratitude turned to demanding impatience when their cash flow was interrupted even slightly. The most telling conversation occurred when my mother called to complain about my recent unreliability with money transfers. "Isabella, you used to be so punctual with your help," she said accusingly. "Lately you seem distracted and delay sending money. Is everything all right with your job? Are you having financial problems?" The irony of her concern about my financial problems while she simultaneously exploited them was almost too much to bear. But I maintained my patient facade, promising to be more attentive to their needs, while privately counting down the days until their monthly bills would come due. I spent my evenings documenting everything, saving screenshots of the video printing bank statements, showing my transfers, and organizing evidence of their deceptive social media posts. I was preparing for a confrontation that would leave no room for manipulation or gaslighting. The anticipation was almost intoxicating. After years of feeling powerless and taken advantage of, I was finally going to reclaim control of my life and expose their exploitation for what it truly was. On the 30th day of the month, precisely when rent and utility bills would be due across the country, Marcus called me with his usual routine. His voice carried the casual expectation of someone who had never been denied anything they requested from me. "Isabella, the electric bill came in at $380 this month, and Mom's insurance is due tomorrow for $450. Sarah also needs money for daycare next week, about $200. Can you transfer around $1,000 like always?" His tone was matter of fact, as if he were asking me to pass him a napkin at dinner. For the first time in 4 years, I said something different. "Marcus, I'm really busy with work right now. Can you handle this month on your own? I need a break from sending money." The silence that followed was profound. I could practically hear his brain processing the idea that his personal ATM might be malfunctioning. "What do you mean handle it ourselves, Isabella? We depend on this money. You know we can't afford these bills without your help." My voice remained calm and professional, the same tone I used with difficult clients at work. "You're both working, and you seem to afford vacations and new phones and expensive dinners. I think you can manage utilities and insurance." Marcus's voice shifted from confusion to anger with remarkable speed. "Are you seriously going to abandon your family over money? This is selfish even for you. We have kids to think about, and Mom has medical expenses." An hour later, my mother called with tears in her voice and desperation in her tone. "Sweetheart, Marcus told me you can't help this month. Please reconsider. I don't have money for my heart medication, and the electric company will shut off our power if we don't pay by tomorrow." I had been preparing for this conversation for weeks, and my response was ready. "Mom, according to your insurance records, your medications cost $30 monthly, and Marcus makes $55,000 a year plus Sarah's salon income. You can afford utilities." The sharp intake of breath told me she realized I had been investigating. "How do you know about Marcus's salary, and why are you checking my medical records? Isabella, what has gotten into you?" Instead of answering her questions directly, I sent the video to our family group chat with a simple message. "I accidentally received this video from Linda last week. After 4 years of sending $48,000 to help my struggling family, I finally understand my true value to all of you. From now on, everyone can handle their own expenses." My phone began ringing immediately. First, Linda called crying and apologizing and claiming she never meant for me to see that video. She begged me to understand that they were just venting frustrations and didn't mean the cruel things they had said. Her desperation was palpable as she realized her mistake had cost the family their reliable source of extra income. Marcus called next, this time with pure anger, replacing any pretense of family concern. "You're being ridiculous, Isabella. So we talked about you at dinner, big deal. Families complain about each other all the time. You can't cut us off financially because your feelings are hurt. Grow up and take responsibility for your family." When I refused to engage with his attempts to minimize my pain, he escalated to threats. "If you don't start sending money again, you'll never see your niece and nephew. Sarah and I will make sure you're not welcome at family gatherings anymore. You'll end up completely alone." My mother tried a different approach, calling to inform me that she was having chest pains and needed to go to the emergency room, but couldn't afford the copay without my help. When I calmly suggested she call an ambulance or ask Marcus to drive her, she suddenly remembered that her symptoms weren't that serious after all. Sarah sent a series of increasingly hostile text messages calling me selfish and heartless for abandoning children who needed food and shelter. She claimed that my niece and nephew would suffer because of my decision, conveniently ignoring the fact that their parents earned more than enough money to provide for them. But I remained unmoved by their guilt-tripped threats and emotional manipulations. I had spent 4 years prioritizing their comfort over my own well-being, and I was done being their financial safety net. 2 months after cutting off their funding, I received the promotion I had been working toward for 3 years. My salary increased by $15,000 annually, money that I could finally spend on my own life instead of subsidizing their luxurious lifestyle. I started dating James, a fellow accountant, who had been asking me out for months. When I finally accepted his invitation for dinner, I discovered that I genuinely enjoyed his company and conversation. He treated me with respect and kindness, never asking for anything beyond my time and attention. Meanwhile, my family was forced to confront the reality of living within their actual means. Marcus and Sarah had to cancel their planned summer vacation, sell some of their expensive possessions, and create a realistic household budget. My mother discovered that she could indeed afford her medications and utilities on her Social Security income, especially when she stopped funding her expensive social activities. The most satisfying part of this entire experience was not the revenge, but the liberation. For the first time in years, I felt free to make decisions based on my own needs and desires. I was no longer trapped in a cycle of financial sacrifice that had been depleting my resources while funding their excess. I learned that real family love cannot be purchased or maintained through financial contributions. The people who truly care about you will never mock your sacrifices or take your generosity for granted. Setting boundaries with family members is not selfish. It is essential for maintaining your own mental health and self-respect. Sometimes the most painful revelations come from accidental text messages or mistakenly sent videos. But these unintended glimpses into people's true feelings can be the most valuable gifts we ever receive because they show us who deserves our energy and investment. Have you ever discovered that someone was talking about you behind your back while accepting your help? How did you handle finding out that family or friends were taking advantage of your generosity? Share your story in the comments below because sometimes we all need to hear that we are not alone in these experiences. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe for more real-life stories about family dynamics and personal growth. Share this with someone who might need to hear that they deserve better treatment from the people in their life. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that you are worth more than what you can provide for others financially. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video.